Here's a question. Are you a sheep or are you a goat? Well, sheep tend to be more distant and aloof. They have a stronger flocking instinct and become very agitated if they're separated from the rest of the flock. Sheep are also known to be, stupid. They need to be led, and if the herd is going somewhere, they follow. The stereotype is that the sheep go with the crowd. Goats, on the other hand, are naturally curious and independent. Some would say stubborn. If sheep go with the crowd, well then goats figure it out on their own. It's easier to keep sheep inside a fence. Goats, on the other hand, they prefer pushing the boundaries a little bit. Christianity, the world's biggest religion, believes that Jesus, a man who lived 2,000 years ago, was God. That Jesus was God and is God. God actually becomes human. He becomes flesh and lived a real human life. This is a really complex topic, and the reason why God became human has a lot of different answers. Jesus was a Jew, and as a Hebrew man, he believed in the Torah, and he followed the Torah, the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament. The Jews celebrated this day called Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, and it was a day once a year that God would deal with all the sins of the people. The way it worked is a priest would take 2 goats from all the people, and I know these aren't goats, they're unicorns, but sorry I didn't have goats, and he would kill the first goat, and this goat's sacrifice would hold off God's wrath for another year. But for the other goat, he'd lay both of his hands on the head of the goat and confess all the sins of the people over. Thousands and thousands of sins cast on this simple goat. And then the goat would be led off miles out of camp into the wilderness, just to wander. People kept on sinning. They turned their back on God. They even forgot about God. So this system of animal sacrifices was broken. It was a broken system. God chose to deal with sin in another way. God became human. God became the sacrifice. Jesus is the scapegoat. He took on every sin. Everyone who's ever lived, he took on their sin. This is extended to you. You don't have to live with sin. You don't have to live with guilt or whatever you've done in the past. God forgives you through his son Jesus. He wants you to live free.